The Star and D'Amico Show is brought to you by cheapesttshirts.ca. If you're looking for quality gear without overpaying, check out cheapesttshirts.ca. A huge selection for men, women, and kids. Hoodies, t-shirts, headwear, bags, even towels. Get this. Order today, ship today, delivery tomorrow. Style, value, and speed, all with cheapesttshirts.ca. Brought to you by Cabletel. For reliable alarm systems in Quebec and Eastern Ontario, you can trust Cabletel, servicing the region for more than 20 years. Expert installation and top-tier protection for your home or business. Visit cabletel.com. Email them info@cabletel.com to get secure today. It's Cabletel. Peace of mind you can count on. Brought to you by Morella's. Craving unforgettable steak and fine dining? Morella's Steakhouse on Highway 132, 15 minutes from downtown Montreal, brings you premium cuts, bold flavors, and an atmosphere that's perfect for any night out. From exceptional service to an outstanding wine list, this is where great meals become great memories. Reserve your next night out and go to morellasteakhouse.ca to reserve now. Taste excellence tonight. Brought to you by Little Bear. Looking for the best for your pet? LittleBearOnline.com with online orders. They're also available on Uber Eats. It's a family-owned business in Montreal that's been around for more than 30 years. Chuck, Evie, and their wonderful staff have all your needs taken care of because they care about your pet as much as you do, with the best prices on top brands from around the world. Toys, food, bedding, everything your pet could ever want. LittleBearOnline.com or visit their store on St. Catherine across from Westmount Square. Brought to you by McLean's. Get down to McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel Street in downtown Montreal. It's your go-to spot for great food, cold drinks, and big sports on the big screens. Classic pub food and a lively vibe only steps from all the action. Stop by today at McLean's, 1210 Peel Street. Good times and great company. Happy Thursday afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another live presentation of the Star and D'Amico Show. I am Sean Starr, joined by my partner in crime, as I always am, Marco D'Amico from rg.org, covering all things Montreal Canadiens here and abroad. Marco, good afternoon in the aftermath of a fun-filled, fan-filled, ambiance-packed environment in a 4-1 win over the Calgary Flames. What a game it was last night.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was utter dominance from 5-on-5, and I think the fans also brought their A game as well in terms of being able to cheer the team on. And for me, you really have to look at how engaged the players were, how engaged the defensemen were. I know we're gonna have a lot of conversation about Oliver Kapanen. I'm looking forward to it because my opinion still hasn't changed. But I really do like what I see from him and consistently do see from him on a regular basis. Lane Hudson, we're going to get on him, a cheat code. And as we discussed when Alex Texier was being made available, what was all the fuss about? Well, I think we're all starting to see what the fuss it was about when you're able to go and grab middle six forward for free. So it bodes really well for the Canadiens. They have the depth that most teams would be paying picks for right around this time. Being able to get a guy like Texier, being able to get a guy like Phil Deneau, who came in clutch yesterday as well for all but a second-round pick. These are major assets that they won't have to spend closer to trade deadline because of that.
A reminder, as always, we love taking the show on the road, and we're on the road again coming up a week from this Saturday. So that'll be January 17th. We're going to be at our favorite spot. Should be your favorite spot, too. Come check us out. Come spend a Saturday night with us as we have our live show at Maison Publique at 1420 Peel Street. Marco and I will be there for a pregame show. We'll be there for a watch party. Habs and Senators, come by, enjoy the game, have some great food, some great service at an outstanding establishment in downtown Montreal. We went into the game yesterday, at least, on the morning show on TSN 690. We were talking about Habs coming off, and we're going to get to some interesting news about players, injured players, skating, Florida Panthers roster on another game night tonight in a second, right? But I want to start with the narrative before puck drop against Calgary, Marco, and where you were coming from and how impressive this total team win was last night, about the narrative around long road trip. The team's home record hasn't been as sensational as their road record, considering how good they were on home ice yesterday. that the chatter before the game was, ooh, this maybe had the markings of a trap game, a team in Calgary that wasn't as good as Montreal. Again, the context of coming back home, first game off a 7-game road trip. But from the jump, Marco, the Canadiens were just all over Calgary. And even after the Farabee goal, it wasn't long before the third period started that Cole Caulfield scored his 21st. But thinking about that narrative, the context, and put it together in terms of the dominant performance.
Yeah, I mean, the Calgary Flames to me are a team that has so many holes in their game. When they play well, if they win a game, generally it's because Dustin Wolf is standing on his head. And he robbed the Canadians a couple of times, so did his posts. But that game could have easily gotten out of hand if another goaltender was in net and not him.
Yeah.
So I think that the Calgary Flames, how ownership looks at this team and doesn't think they need a rebuild is mind-boggling to me. This is the team in the NHL most in need of a rebuild. The most, bar none. And the Canadiens showed them exactly why. When the Canadiens took the difficult decision to rebuild, they were not too far off from where the Calgary Flames are right now, right? Aging core, a lot of people leaving, some players wanting out, some players not wanting to re-sign or extending their contracts. And the Canadiens took the plunge. Ownership has to take that plunge because that's extra money that they're losing out on. Right. And the Canadiens, let's call a spade a spade. Jeff Molson, it's not like his expenditure books went down during that rebuild. They were one of the highest spending teams because of all of the contracts that were on LTIR. Not all of them are covered by insurance. And even when they are covered by insurance, it's not at 100%. So he still took that on. So kudos to Jeff Molson. He profits from it now because he took the plunge. Well, it's time for Murray Edwards in Calgary to take the plunge.
Let's get to what we learned this morning in terms of some injured players here, as our boy Mountain Dew 96 puts the question in the group chat today. What's going on with Kirby Dach and Kaiden Guhle? We'll also talk about goaltending and can we read anything into who was on the ice this morning for the Montreal Canadiens? What's going on with Brad Marchand, the Florida Panthers, an injured Phil team as Florida is in town off a 4-1 loss to Toronto. But let's start on the Montreal Canadiens injury front, Marco, with Kirby Dach on the ice for a session, Jake Evans on for less, and breaking news, Adam Engstrom sent back to Laval.
Yeah, well, I think Adam Engstrom going back to Laval was in the cards. I think the Canadiens they wanted one of Jaden Struble and Arbor Xhekaj to really kind of stand up. I think Arbor Xhekaj has done a fantastic job of standing out of that crowd since I would say about a month now. And so when you have that kind of assurance and you know that Kaiden Guhle is not too far away, what do? You make the obvious decision, which we had discussed, probably a month ago, that when Kaiden Guhle was ready, Adam Engstrom would be the one to go. Yeah. My guess would be Jaden Struble would be the one to sit, and Arbor would return to playing with Alex Carey on the third pair, and then you'd have Hudson and hopefully Guhle on the right as your second pair. So I think this makes a ton of sense. I didn't like the idea of watching Engstrom eat popcorn on the press box. I thought that Laval is going to have a good amount of games ahead of them as well. He needs playing time. He needs to continue to improve. I think he showed that he's got NHL potential ahead of him. And I think he could, on a lesser team, a team with less defense in terms of depth, I think he would be playing right now. So I have no problem seeing him go back down. And, we talked about this as well. This also serves the Canadiens from a salary cap perspective, because now instead of being $1.3 million over the salary cap, they're only about $400,000 over the salary cap, which means the next player to come back from injury, be it Josh Anderson, Josh Anderson's not on IR yet, but if Kirby Dach comes back in the next week or two, they're probably going to have to send down Owen Beck, right? Well, then that will get the Canadiens under the salary cap. So that's all good. I don't think that we're going to see Kaiden Guhle tonight. Doesn't look likely to me because he was skating this morning. That's not necessarily a good sign, but anything's possible in today's NHL. The Canadiens won't be announcing a roster change until I would say 4 p.m. today is when they're expected to make an announcement. So with that said, I wouldn't expect Guhle tonight. but I would potentially expect Gooley for Saturday. And so it made sense to send Engstrom down now because Laval is about to leave on a road trip, and they wanted him to be with the team as they left.
I think Caden Gooley skated for 40, 45 minutes. Doc for about 20. Evans less than that. And Patrick Friolet of RDS throughout the course of the broadcast against Calgary on Wednesday night that Kirby Doc's still walking around, Marco, in that therapy boot. In terms of the timeline, again, General Manager Ken Hughes and Marco and I covered this at length in the aftermath of Ken Hughes' press conference, right? They're going to be very patient, very cautious. Certainly with Kirby Doc and the rest of the injured players. And that was, I guess, Marco, you were at the game, so you didn't see like the visual. You saw it in person, I guess, when you walk down into the press row and you look to your left, the parade of players. I mean, you got a couple of healthy scratchers in Montebo and Adam Engstrom, but like one after another from Newhook to Anderson to Kirby Doc. I mean, the injured players on this team, right? I mean, they're mounting at this point. I want to talk, obviously, about Jacob Fowler, clearly 28 save performance. And, this team's record with him is sterling. And I wonder about what that means in terms of the battle. You and I and the rest of the chat have talked at length about Jacob Fowler, what's best for him. How should the Canadiens handle him? Well, he's handling his business by playing well and backstopping the team to solid performances. And we'll get into goaltending for sure. But let's pick up kind of where you let us off a little bit here with Oliver Kapanen scoring his 14th of the season after the Montreal Canadiens get called in back-to-back penalties. I don't know if this is referee management with the trip to Nazem Kadri, who had a different opinion when he went back to the bench. He's like, what happened there? And he's like, sarcastically saying it's my bad. But there was Kapanen in front of the net, potting his 14th of the season. I know he's not the number one center, but man, oh man, on any given night, it looks like that's the number one line. As Slafkovsky, Demidov, and Kapanen continue to impress. And 14 goals, Marco. He's on pace for 27 goals this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you're playing with two top-notch wingers, and you have the situational wherewithal and intelligence to be able to find the soft ice so that you can complete those plays. And that's Oliver Kapanen in a nutshell. That's exactly what he does offensively really well. He gets himself open. He finds the right place, and he's got two teammates that are phenomenal playmakers that are able to spot him. And on last night's goal, I think he read the play well, where there was an opportunity to trap Nazem Kadri in that play. Their skates touched. He fell, did Kadri. Slafkovsky quickly tries to make a play. Who's right there for the rebound? Oliver Kapanen. It's all about his placement, and I think that's the key. His creativity, like he's not the guy that's going to set up a play. He's the guy that's going to finish a play. I do like that, but that makes you dependent on the quality of wingers that you're going to play with. The way this team is built right now lends a lot of I'd say benefit to a guy like Kapanen because he has the necessary. One of the major things this team lacks is finishers. Really, you have Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki's there, but he's been more of a passer. And then you really need more of like a shoot first kind of guy. Well, that's what Kapanen does. And I think that's what makes that chemistry click. Sometimes it's not the player that's a 2C, but playing in a slot where you're playing with two top six wingers that excel at feeding you and you are a shoot first kind of guy, the chemistry that you guys put together make you a legitimate 2C in that situation. Right. And I think that's what we're seeing from Oliver Kapanen is that getting the rub is one thing, but he's also completing the plays, which is where Kent Hughes gave him the flowers that he got. I think, his defensive acumen is strength in the face-off circle. It is what it is when it comes to his defensive side of the game. I think we've all talked about it at length. Yeah. The question simply is how much more does he have to go? Like, where is his ceiling? How far can he go? Because I've seen a lot of people compare this kind of situation to a Thomas Plekanec, right? Thomas Plekanec at 22 years old, correct me if I'm wrong, he was drafted in 2001. So 22 years old meant that he would have to, it was 05. Which
how many games he played for the Bulldogs too before he played? He was in the AHL for a minute.
So it was 23 minutes, 23 years old when Plekanec started in the NHL. and then hit his stride at 24 in 06, 07, and then took off in 07, 08 with Alex Kovalev. So there is anyone saying that he has reached his status. I don't believe that. However, and I continue to state this, I feel like his skill set is better suited long term when this team is going to be contending, because I don't take games against Calgary and I don't take regular season games into consideration when I think about this as well. But when you're going to be contending against teams that have elite depth down the middle, the Canadians to be able to win a cup, probably either going to have a combination of Suzuki, Xhekaj, and Kapanen. And who cares who the 2C is at that point?
Fair,
right? If those are your three centers, and with the wingers that they have, right? Like we just finished talking about Slavkovsky, Demidov, Zhorovsky, who's playing really well with Evgeny Kuznetsov right now in Ufa, Cole Caulfield, and you name it, right? And they still want to add to that. So I don't think it's necessarily anointing him as the 2C right now. I know that Kent Hughes came out and said it, but to say otherwise would have probably been a worse situation for him. But I think what he's done is he's at least elevated his play so that he can be that stopgap for now as they wait to uncover what the rest of his potential could be. And I think that's a really good problem to have.
I don't disagree, but I guess just to follow up on this before we move on, right? Like Ken Hughes was very spoken in a flattering way around Oliver Kapanen, and when he said without a doubt that he could be the 2C moving forward, right? I mean, he is right now, but to your earlier point, can he be when this team is ready to legitimately contend, right, at a higher level? Where is he going to be? But don't you think, like, obviously players take incremental steps, these building blocks, I guess, that they do things along their path that make you see, like, oh, maybe he can be this guy. But obviously, I mean, the guy can score. It's quite clear. He's on pace for 27 goals. He's on 14 after last night. But what about maybe his biggest asset, what Ken Hughes said there? Like, how smart he is, how positionally smart, where, he'll be in an open ice, and then Demidov can trust where he is and throw a wild pass across the offensive zone because he knows his guy's going to be there. That's an advantage. That's something that, will, I think, ultimately benefit you come playoff time. You're going to find your place because he's smart positionally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one of the things that I remember talking about back in the day, and I say back in the day, like it was a long time ago, last September, when Oliver Kapanen was getting ready to come over from Timrå in the SHL, his coach was Olli Jokinen. For the elder millennials and everyone older than that in this group, in the chat right now, you all remember him with the Florida Panthers and otherwise. He was his head coach last year, and he was telling me even then he just knows how to get to the soft ice. He knows how to take advantage of or to get behind coverage, and if you can get the puck to him, he can get it off in a hurry. And I remember, obviously we saw what he did in the preseason last year, but when he went back to Sweden, he was on a point per game tear, which is, not easy to do when you're under the age of 22, even 20 in the SHL. Ivar Stenberg is having a great year. That's why a lot of people see him as the future first overall pick in 2026. And I take nothing away from him. It's impressive he's doing it at 17, but Oliver Kapanen coming in mid-season and doing that is also just as impressive. And he did so because he was able to take advantage of soft ice. Granted, when you play in Sweden, it's bigger ice. So there's a lot of ice to take advantage of. And what I think Oliver Kapanen needed to do, we didn't see much of it last year when he came back to North America. I think he needed to get more acclimated to the smaller ice. He went from hybrid to bigger to North American. It's medium, big, small. It's a big change. So I think once he got used to the dimensions, got used to his timing, got used to the structures in the NHL, he was able to kind of take advantage of that due to his strong positioning and his good shooting mechanics. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now, along with very solid defensive play and some clutch PK work while you have guys like Jake Evans and Josh Anderson injured.
So with the defensive play in mind, let's dive into what I thought was a very, very strong and deep performance from the Canadiens' blue line. First of all, leader Mike Matheson, an unbelievably strong game, especially shorthanded. I mean, he was on the ice. He's having fun. His stick work was very strong positionally. Alex Carrier, I thought, had a very strong game. Moves the puck up the open ice, finds Alex Texier in the second period to open the scoring. One of 3 points Texier would go on to finish the night with and get the first star, rightfully so. The first 3-point game for Alex Texier in his NHL career in the 4-1 victory. And again, the Canadiens getting contributions. Phil Deneau, good game. Alex Texier, good game. You don't pay big prices, and these guys are giving big performances. Lane Hudson gets his 8th of the year. He's 4 points back in Nick Suzuki for the team lead in scoring. But how about big number 72? This is a guy you and I talk about on the regular. I mean, he is stacking games. He played over 16 minutes yesterday, 16:01 to be exact. Great management, I thought, by the bench, considering it was the first of a back-to-back game. But let's make this point. As physical as Arbor Xhekaj was, hitting guys behind Dustin Wolf's goal line last night, firing pucks, making good passes out of the zone, Marco. I mean, this is what I think a lot of Xhekaj fans have been talking about. If he can stack these games come playoff time, when I think we're all about the physical element playing a major role, I mean, Xhekaj in the second half is coming on strong. He had an outstanding game for him last night, I thought.
I thought he kept it simple. Right?
Totally.
Like,
yes.
He just kept it simple, didn't try to overthink it. He just went with instinct, and I think his instincts are correct. And, you know, you look at the forechecking that he was doing, how strong he was along the boards and pinching in the offensive zone, how physical he was against the opposition. He got away with a little bit of an interference call at the beginning of the game there. But you'll love to see it, I guess, sometimes, right? That wouldn't get called in the playoffs, for example. So I liked what we saw from him. I don't want to rush into ridiculous praise either, in the sense that he is what he is, he is being a very efficient bottom pair defenseman. And I think that's what he will be in his career, because he does the little things right. He plays in the right minutes, but he's at home, especially, he's not being utilized against the top opposition. He's being given second or third line, right? Like, so it's not like they're exposing him necessarily. He's getting some PK time. Like, they're allowing him to gain a certain level of consistency because he's getting playing consistency. I just don't want to run away with the narrative, because then if he has a bad game or if he dips, then it's going to be the complete other way. And I feel like it's somewhere in the middle, where if he can be a really good number 5, you're in business, right? Like, this is a kind of defenseman teams will trade a first-round pick for come playoff time, because they want to get more physical, right? And the Canadiens already have it in house. Like, that's a really good problem to have. So I don't think he needs to be moved. Again, we saw very unique skill set to the Canadiens. He was the one throwing the body basically all night. Jaden Struble gave a couple of shots as well, but not like Arbor. And what I liked about it was, his high stick penalty.
That
happens. I'm sorry, that happens. That is not a lack of discipline. That shit happens.
Yeah. Marty's not pulling him aside in the video room asking, "What were you thinking there?" No.
Yeah, no. You got 2 minutes for being tall. Good job, Arbor. But Sean knows all about that, by the way, guys.
Exactly.
So I don't necessarily think that there's a problem, being happy with what he does. I just don't want to run away with the narrative a little bit yet that he's a top 4 defense, because top 4 defense, there's a nice leap. Like, everyone that's not happy with Alex Carrier's play, like, if you start playing anybody on the bottom pair right now in a top 4 situation, it's a leg up, because Martin St. Louis really does shelter his bottom pair. So I think Arbor has been fantastic in the role that he's used. He's simplified his game. He's physical, both from an aggressor and aggressee perspective. So, like, in his defensive zone and the offensive zone. And I think the thing that's going to help him the most is he's got more confidence in the neutral zone. In the past, he'd turn around, go back the other way, or hand grenade it to somebody else. Now he's more confident in being able to take those decisions and even join the rush in the offensive zone. That, to me, is very prometteur. It really does put you in a position where you can make a decision moving forward with confidence, knowing that Arbor, now that he's playing consistently, is able to bring a consistent higher level of play.
So let me put this out here, right? Caden Gooley on the cusp of returning, right? I doubt he's going to play tonight, but we'll see, right?
I think
Maybe
he'll
he
play
slots
Saturday.
back in Saturday against the Red Wings, which is going to be a massive game at the Bell Center, right? Habs and Panthers at 7. We'll get into that a little bit later on in today's show. Thanks for being with us, spending some of your lunch hour on this Thursday here with Star and D'Amico. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're getting close to 12,900 subs, and the subs keep mounting at a rapid pace, so thank you for that. You can hit that subscribe button, and you'll get all your notifications anytime we drop any new content on the channel. And we'll be here live tomorrow too. But I love the physical play from my defenseman overall. And Caden Gooley, when he gets back, is when he gets back, and he brings obviously a very high-end skill level along with the physical component. But there's something, brother, about Struble and Xhekaj together that really is appealing to me. But they've got a lot of defensemen. Especially once we have we're having the conversation about Gooley knocking on the door of a comeback. But what do you make of the future prospects of Struble and Xhekaj as your bottom pair defensemen, and how physically imposing they can be, especially when we talk about playoff time? It's not easy to match up against those guys when they're playing their respective games.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. It's just I feel like Caden Gooley is a much better version of Jaden Struble. And so you want to have a different set of personas, and you also have to factor in Adam Engstrom and David Reinbacher in the future of that.
Yeah,
so
right.
To me, it's a good problem to have because, as you pointed out, like it's not like Struble necessarily looks bad, not by any stretch. He's just the one that doesn't look the best out of the three that play on the bottom pair. The Canadians send down Engstrom. You can't take Arbor out of the lineup right now the way he's playing.
No.
These are all very easy problems, but what it does is it gives options. If the Canadians want to make a trade, be it now, be it in the offseason, and there's a team asking for a young NHL-ready defenseman, Jaden Struble's right there, and you've got all this experience of them, and we know the teams are watching some of the more expendable assets on the team when they're discussing with the Canadians, because from what I've been told, the Canadians are one of the teams that a lot of teams in the NHL would want to have a conversation with if ever they want to sell off, because they like the young assets they have on their team that they think would be deemed expendable. And that's saying something, because I think we all understand who's untouchable on this team.
Yeah.
I think there's a good 7 to 8 players, not happening for borderline anything. But then after that, it gets really interesting for the opposition, because there is some excess organizationally speaking. So if you're dealing from a position of strength like the Canadians are on defense, a guy like Struble becomes attractive to another team that's looking to get younger and wanting to get another piece in, just like the St. Louis Blues did with Logan Mailloux for Zach Bolduc. Except in this case, maybe it's a package and not a one-for-one.
I know Ken Hughes went on at length. He was asked several times in both languages at his press conference earlier this week about, the deadline and possible transactions. I mean, I'm not talking about returns, but it seems inevitable. They're going to have to do like several moves, with guys, here we are talking about Gooley, Kirby Dach skated for 20 minutes. Jake Evans back on the ice again. Patrick Laine's timeline seems to be on track for a return, whether it's pre-Olympics or right after the Olympics. And then we talk about Alex Newhook in March, right? I mean, Marco, there's a lot of guys on the cusp of returning and not enough roster space for Martin St. Louis, who's going to have quite the assignment in terms of, like, as Ken Hughes alluded to, he's like, it's going to be up to the coach to decide the guys that he wants to use moving forward in terms of formulating and putting together the best, forward combinations and defensive pairings. I mean, am I wrong to think moves from management, they're inevitable just based on how many bodies they have right now?
Well, I mean, first of all, you have to factor in for injuries, right? You have to factor in if there's going to be any additional, knock on wood, injuries between now and the trade deadline when some of these come back.
Yeah.
Alex Newhook, from what I understand, would be only coming back around the trade deadline anyway, so not someone to factor in. You only have a roster issue prior to the trade deadline because there's a 23-man roster limit. After that, you can have as many as you want on your roster, as long as you don't go over the salary cap, which the Canadians won't at that point once a lot of these guys come back.
Yeah.
So what do? What happens? Well, you have Patrick Laine that's on track to come back. So we're he could be back prior to the Olympics. He could be back right after. It's irrelevant at that point. He'll play a couple of games or he'll just start up again after. If you're the Montreal Canadiens, maybe you want him to start up after just because it gives you that extra time to maybe potentially make a move to create roster space. Jake Evans was 4 to 6 weeks from mid-December.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we're at week 3 now, and we'll see what happens. But I think he'll be back before the February break. We don't have any news on Josh Anderson. Hopefully we get some tonight from the Canadiens. They said they would let us know. And then when it comes to Kaden Guhle, he's probably back by this weekend, the way things are going. So they've already made one decision. I think Owen Beck will go down the moment one of the forwards comes off IR. And then after that, it gets complicating.
Yeah.
Then after that, like one of the other things that becomes interesting is what happens with Sammy Blais? Because do you send Sammy Blais down? He can play one more game for the Canadiens before he has to go through waivers again. The moment he plays 10 games, he has to go back through waivers. So do the Canadiens send him down before? Do they just keep him on and waive him? Do they not waive him? Because then at one point you're going to have to waive somebody, or there's going to have to be a trade, or someone's going to have to be injured. But there's going to come a time. I just named them. Evans, the Josh Anderson already counts against the roster, so that's not a problem. But Evans, Laine, already those two coming back, you're going to need to get rid of 2 players. So they're going to have to waive somebody. I don't think they want to waive Joe Veleno. So I think, and this is kind of the problem now, is if you waive Sammy Blais, what happens if he gets picked up again?
Exactly, and he probably will. He's been playing some pretty good hockey, right? And they don't want to lose Alex Texier. Clearly, there's another guy, right? I mean, they don't want to lose him.
Well, Texier is not going anywhere. I don't.
No,
that's
he's a first-line player.
I would go as far to say, and I don't think this is a hot take in this moment, but when everybody comes back, I would say that the Canadiens would keep Texier in the lineup over Gallagher. Like Gallagher would sit for Texier.
Right.
As much as I have appreciated Brendan Gallagher and his career,
I
get cannot tell me he's a better player right now than Alex Texier.
I don't think anybody that watches this, I mean, you put take the glasses off for a second and, separate the emotion from the business of putting together a winning roster. No disrespect to Brendan Gallagher, like we've talked about before. I'd love for him to keep a place within the organization when the day that he decides to call it a great career for the Montreal Canadiens. So it's a very logical, grounded take, in my opinion. I think a lot of people disagree there. Welcome to the live show. Marco D'Amico, Sean Starr with you. Thanks for being with us for the last 30 minutes or so. Jacob Fowler, again, strong performance, backstopping the Montreal Canadiens. Good when he needed to be. Calm, cool as always. Mark Denis alluding to this. Doesn't seem to get rattled by a mistake, whether it's giving the puck away behind his net or a Joel Farabee flash screen by Ivan Demidov, and the snapshot gets through him. He keeps his composure. Mark Denis, again, in that context, very Carey Price-esque. And then there was the pregame show on RDS before the puck dropped against the Calgary Flames when Ken Hughes said, and he got more specific this time about the 3-goalie situation that is the Canadiens' reality, Marco. So let's dive into that right now. Ken Hughes was asked, is this going to stay until the Olympic break coming up on February 4th when the NHL roster freezes for the second time in this regular season? And he said, that's not the plan. They hope to get this done before then. We know this week has been busy. We know next week is busy. And then it starts to get back to a more calmer schedule here. So let me put this question to you. I think right now, Jacob Fowler is going to stay with the Montreal Canadiens. Of the 3 goaltenders, I think he has looked consistently the best. How much pressure is on Jakub Dobeš here? I mean, kind of like, and hear me out for a second. When camp started, Arbor Xhekaj was the guy on the depth chart ahead of Jaden Struble. And then the season got going and Struble showed more consistent play and started to leapfrog someone like Arbor Xhekaj. And now I start to see like a parallel. I mean, are we talking about Jakub Dobeš realistically being the guy that maybe gets sent to Laval here, and they're going to roll with Monty and Fowler until who knows when. But what about Dobeš being on the clock here as maybe the odd man out of this three-goalie system?
It's because Dobeš is waiver exempt, it makes this a little bit trickier.
Yeah.
Because they did skip him on the rotation. But what it does, and what I think really kind of changes the dynamic a little bit, is the Olympic break. The AHL is still playing. Who do you want still playing in that moment? I want Jakub Fowler still playing in that moment if you think he's the guy.
Right. I get it.
So do you send do you send Dobeš down now? We'll see what happens. I think Dobeš is playing tonight, personally, because Montembeault was on the ice this morning.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to go back to back with Fowler. So
imagine three-goalie system. They start the same guy.
Well, I don't think he said he didn't envision it being something that would last past the Olympic break, which invokes two things. One, Fowler goes back down. Two, a trade.
Yeah.
And, there are teams that are still looking for young goaltenders. And, sometimes I get the question, like, why can't they just run with three goalies? Because it's taken up a roster spot, homie. Because having three goalies means the Canadiens might have to waive a forward that they would otherwise require. And we all remember what the forward situation depth-wise looked like the moment they ran into a couple of injuries in the month of October and November. You don't want to do that again. So it's best to rectify that because you don't want your goalies playing one game each a week. The only reason they're playing more than that right now is because the schedule is ridiculously condensed. Won't be the same thing next year. So it's just because of it, the way it is right now, it's okay. Mm-hmm. You got 5 games in the next 7 days, starting from yesterday. So it creates a situation where you can be you can be a little bit more experimental when it comes to the way that you're going to use your goalies. I think ultimately, though, you have to send one of them down. You need that roster spot before the trade deadline. And I think it's just going to go down to who's the one that's performing the most. As much as I appreciate Jakub Fowler, I think the team played excellent in front of him yesterday. It was probably the least busy game he's had. I know the shot count is one thing, but in terms of high danger chances, he had 3 all game.
Right.
That shows great defensive play from the Canadiens. If they can play like that in front of all their goalies, the Canadiens are going places, no matter how bad their goalies play. So the way that I see it, it's going to come down to strategy. It's going to come down to getting these guys ice time and making sure that they play. And to me, I think Jakub Fowler during the Olympic break would make sense for him to go back to Laval so that he can continue playing during the break. You want him to continue to get those minutes. And I think that's a good problem to have. And then Jakub Dobeš, I think he's earned the right to stay in the NHL and continue to make an NHL salary. And you're not going to waive Montembeault. So those are your options if there is no trade.
That's it. So some news ahead of puck drop tonight. Sergei Bobrovsky will start for the Florida Panthers. Brad Marchand has been ruled out for tonight's game. He got hurt in the 4-1 loss to Toronto. And I wonder about this. Like, Sam Montembeault was the only goalie not on the ice this morning. Gouli skated for 45. Laine was also on the ice. Kirby Dach skated. Jake Evans skated today. So, like, talking about all these players and everything coming up. To me, like, I'd really like to see Sam Montembeault play tonight. Again,
I think it's one or the other.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, for sure, it's not going to be Jakub Fowler. You're not going to roll 3 goalies
plays
and keep
Detroit.
the same guy again. But
the problem then becomes who plays Detroit.
The 3-goalie system. It's mayhem. It's mayhem. I mean, you can't sit Dobeš on Saturday night if it's Monty today.
If Jakub Fowler plays Saturday, then
wow,
that Jakub Dobeš has fallen out of favor.
Yes, clearly, yes. I mean, how much of that then? Like, let me follow up. How much of that game Saturday hinges on how tonight's goaltender plays? If it's Monty or Dobeš, I mean, let's say, hypothetically, best case, worst case. Best case, they win the game and they stick with the rotation. Worst case is they lose to Sergei Bobrovsky and the injury-riddled Florida Panthers. Does the win or a loss influence who plays on Saturday against Detroit in a massive game with the two teams tied on points? And Detroit plays tonight too, by the way.
Yeah, well, I again, like, that's where that's why I would have thought, personally, that this game was the game that you'd see Dobesh play.
Right, me too.
The Panthers are missing so many pieces.
Yeah.
And then you would play Montembeault on Saturday. That's the way I thought about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, like, trying to figure out the goaltending strategy of late is just,
it's crazy.
A complete waste of time. So I leave it in the hands of Martin St. Louis, and all I do is comment on how it turned out.
Totally.
I did want to clarify one thing. I did see a lot of people asking about potentially waiving Brendan Gallagher given his salary. Not anybody would pick that up. I just want to confirm to everybody, not that I ever think the Canadiens would waive him, but they cannot waive him. No movement clause, differing from a no trade clause. A no movement clause means that you cannot be waived. You can't do anything. That's why Chris Drury hates no movement clauses. He likes no trade clauses because he'll waive you and he'll have San Jose pick you up. Mm-hmm. But he does not like no trade clauses, no movement clauses, because you cannot waive a player that has a no move clause. Just want to clarify that.
Yeah, good clarification, right? The difference between the no trade and the no move. The no move is the ironclad mamma jamma there for Brendan Gallagher, right? But to fall back to your earlier point, it's hard to form a coherent argument, because that old line of loyalty is a losing proposition in professional sports. It doesn't take away from the great career I think Brendan Gallagher has had, but in terms of icing the best players, based on how this team likes to play, right? So what about that? What's the key? We do this on most broadcasts, right? Across the National Hockey League, across sports. The key to victory tonight for the Montreal Canadiens, what do they need to do against an older team in the Florida Panthers? Again, if you're just joining us, Sergei Bobrovsky will get the net for Florida, and it won't be Brad Marchand. So Brad Marchand will not have to answer for his headshot on Mike Matheson that got the Canadiens a power play and got Nick Suzuki the overtime winner. But he won't have to answer that at least tonight. The two teams will play one more time, and that's coming up down the road in April. But what about the keys to victory tonight? How do the Montreal Canadiens need to get off on the right foot, considering how well they played last night?
Copy paste the first period from last night.
Yeah, no
kidding. Except convert.
Yeah.
I think that's the easiest way I could put it. But I think with Florida, the difference is that they have even with Barkov injured, they have such good depth down the middle.
Yeah.
That you're really going to have to beat them along the wings. You're really going to have to beat them with speed. You're going to have to beat them by overloading the center of the ice. And I think if you remember when the Canadiens took over that game against Florida in the third period, they did so because they were looping into the slot a lot, which is something that since that game they've been doing with a little bit more consistency. Well, if they can continue that, then they're in business. But I definitely do agree with the comment from Demigod24. No momentum killing penalties.
Amen.
Never mind in the first 10 minutes in the game.
Yeah, well said.
In the sense that when the Canadiens play disciplined, because this is the one thing that I fear with the Florida Panthers. Doesn't matter who is on the ice. They have one of the best forechecking in hockey. They have two guys on you. They are relentless. They are quick. They get on you really, really fast. You have to make decisions a half a second quicker than usual. It's going to be a faster game than last night. I could guarantee you that right off the top. And for that to happen, for them to be able to find success, they're going to have to beat them with speed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the Canadiens, sometimes when they're playing on their heels, they play a little, how do I say, tentatively. They didn't see that last night, which is one of the reasons why I thought they did well. But the Canadiens are going to need to have, for example, the center is going to have to be close to the winger to have the outlet pass open so that they can effectively do a zone exit with control and not have to consistently lob it. They're going to have a guy in the offensive zone close to every puck carrier for support. They're going to have to attack the middle of the ice, but also make sure to cover the ends of the zone just to make sure that there's nothing going back the other way, like we saw yesterday on that partial break. So you always want to be aware, and you always want to be ahead, one step ahead of the opposition. Well, the Canadiens are going to have to do that tonight. I understand that Brad Marchand's not playing, so that's Marchand, Xhekaj, and Barkov out. There's a prime opportunity for them to take advantage of the situation. The only X factor I could see is Sergei Bobrovsky right now.
Zachary Bolduc. Zachary Bolduc. 1 point in his last 9 games, pointless in the new year. Threw his body around a little bit yesterday, but when I watch this guy, I'm curious what your read. When I watch Zach Bolduc out there, I see a guy who's trying to find his place. And clearly, I mean, you see, the minutes go up and down, the role, depending on how MSL perceives his game, goes up and down. What's your read on, I know we talk about him regularly, right? But what's your read? When you watch Zach Bolduc, what player do you see?
See a young player just trying to find his identity. This is why I always have a little bit of what's the word I remember putting out here? A little bit of caution when it comes to projecting a career after just 30 or 40 games.
Yeah.
With like I do with Oliver Kapanen, right? Like Zachary Bolduc was as hot as Oliver Kapanen was in the Four Nations, if not hotter, right? He was on pace for like 25 goals, just like Kapanen is right now. But he was getting the rub, and he was being used in a super optimal way, especially on the power play. He was in the bumper playing in between Kyrou and Robert Thomas. Like there is no better situation. But with Montreal, they already have guys that play those roles. He looked good in the bumper for the Canadiens when they used him on the first power play wave. But my issue was always being effective at 5-on-5, because that's where that's where it's gonna happen, right? You're gonna need to be effective at 5-on-5. We're not seeing that right now. And one of the things, especially, is on the forecheck, he's not finishing his checks. In the middle of the zone, he's easily removed from the puck.
Right.
I feel like he gets stripped from the puck very easily. And then it's almost to the opposite of Oliver Kapanen. It's not knowing exactly where to be on the ice to be of value to a play, even as a support option, never mind just to finish it. And I think that's the thing, is that when you're playing on a third line, you're not going to get gifted the puck. You're going to have to go and get that puck, right? And even when he was playing on the first line, he was getting gifted pucks, and some of his one-timers would sail over the net. We know he's got a fantastic shot. We know he's able to cover the ice quite well. We know he's able to move the puck up the ice quite quickly, but he's got to put it all together. And I think continuing to play him with Phil Deneau will at least mask some of the defensive issues. But I think you're going to need, at the end of the day, you're going to need a guy that's going to be able to find some confidence in his game. Yeah. He's had spurts of good games, but he's got to start being able to stack them. And I'm not giving up on him in any way, shape, or form.
No.
But I do think that there's going to have to be, I think maybe perhaps when a guy like Kirby Dach comes back, perhaps I think those two played well together, so I think that'll help a lot. But I do think that they need more offensive pieces in the bottom six to get going, so that we could really kind of see what he can do. And to me, again, getting pucks on net, going back to what made him dangerous in the first place, is just being that nasty goal-scoring winger. And I find he's gotten away from that.
Let me just do a quick reset here. Lots of questions, a lot of repetitive questions. People jump in and out of the live stream today. Thanks for spending your lunch hour with us on this Thursday on a game day. Habs and Panthers at 7 o'clock today. As far as some of the injured players go, the latest, Kirby Dach skated for about 20 minutes. It was a little less for forward Jake Evans. Sam Montembeault, the only goaltender not on the ice this morning. Kaiden Guhle skated for about 45 minutes. Indications are that he's not going to play tonight. Patrick Laine, for what it's worth, was also on the ice with Kaiden Guhle. And as far as the Florida Panthers are concerned, Matthew Tkachuk was skating with the Panthers tonight. He's been injured all season. Brad Marchand confirmed not ready to go and is out against the Habs at 7 o'clock. And Sergei Bobrovsky will be the starting goaltender. Let's put this question on the board here from Chris and NDG. Question, Marco. Once injuries are back, I like this question. What is a disrespectful amount of healthy scratches for Brendan Gallagher, if there are any?
Like in terms of games?
Yeah. Like consecutive, like 5 would be devastating. Like 5 in a row, like 5 straight games, that would be crushing.
Yeah, I feel like the tough. All right, let's build a lineup, guys. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's healthy. What's your top line?
Well, yeah, when you said Doc earlier, I was like, shit, where does Texier go? Like, yeah,
third line.
Hey?
Third line.
Lord
you
Almighty.
Want my honest opinion?
So Suzuki, Caulfield, Doc, the second line stays the second line.
I think in a playoff situation, and I know I'm going to get heat for this.
Yeah.
We're talking about playoffs. I think in a playoff situation.
That's really good. You've mastered this. That's pretty good.
I've had practice. I think in a playoff situation, we may see Slafkovsky go back to the top line. Just because they're going to want to have a matchup situation. And the only reason that would happen is if they feel comfortable with Newhook recreating the really strong line that Kapanen and Demidov had at the beginning of the season, which we all forget because it happened 2 months ago, but it was a really good line.
Yeah.
No, Zachary Bolduc is waiver exempt, can go down to Laval. Still, I think there's a couple more games. I think only as of next year is he waiver eligible.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the top line, I could see Alex Newhook fitting there. He's done it before. He can do it again. My only concern is that line would be a little too small for my liking in a playoff format. I would prefer Slafkovsky be up there, but then you could say the same thing about the second line. And therein lies the Canadiens' desire to go and get more sandpaper in a middle six scenario. But when you have Texier, I think having Texier on your third line with Danault, really as kind of your duo, and then you can kind of fill it out. If you don't want to touch the top line, I understand it. You want to leave it as is, cool. You don't want to touch the kid line, cool. But then you'd basically have Doc, Danault, and Bolduc as your third line. And that's a lot of ifs for me.
Yeah.
That's too many ifs for me. So I would probably try to maybe Doc on the first line and then Texier on a line with Bolduc, who he would be able to find and make a lot of space for, and Phil Danault, who would cover defensively. And then your fourth line, Lord have mercy, would probably be something like Jake Evans, Josh Anderson, and I don't even want to go because it would probably have to be Brendan Gallagher. But
I was going to say Sammy Blais, even maybe. I like Sammy Blais.
Sammy Blais. Like, to me in the playoffs, Sammy Blais on that fourth line, you have Blais and Anderson on the same line.
Speed and physical presence, man. Like,
I wouldn't say that Sammy
faster
Blais
than Gallagher. I mean,
I don't want to make comments. Gallagher is a warrior. I don't want to make comments on his skating.
I understand. So we're building a playoff roster.
This is like the tortoise and the hare all over again.
Yeah.
But I still think it's an incredible puzzle here. And you have to factor in for Patrick Laine, right? Like, it's insane. And that's if the Canadiens don't add. So this is why I'm saying it's a whole lot harder than we think. And so when I say disrespect, and this doesn't even include Michael Hage signing with the Canadiens.
I mean, everyone's, where's Patrick Laine? Where's Patrick Laine? It's like, well, he's going to get traded, right? I mean, so many people, so many players.
I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. The Canadiens are going to have to deal. Well, first of all, when Michael Hage joins, it'll be after the trade deadline. So it doesn't matter at all in terms of a roster limit. It's just where will he play? That's the problem. But I think when it comes to the lineup, I think that you want depth. Yes, you absolutely want depth. And I don't think the Canadiens are ever going to make the mistake that they made this season coming in with so little depth. But what I think they'll do, or what I think will help, is I think the Canadiens are going to be in a position where they can be both a buyer and a seller in this market. And that's rare. Not many teams can do that right now. But I feel like they have the necessary depth to be able to do that because they know a Michael Hage is coming, because they know Alex Newhook is coming back, and because some of their depth guys have done such a good job of going above expectations that they can count on them now.
You know, you're never supposed to nominate your favorite children, you know, I don't mean it in a disrespectful term, you know, I don't mean to call the chat community on the Star and D'Amico show children by any stretch of the imagination, but we love
Definitely
you.
Not mine.
We love you. Marco's
me.
having baby number 1 is on the cusp here, coming in hot in the month of April. I don't know if he turns the tap off after number 1. Maybe he's going to build a whole community a little. D'Amico's running around all over the place, but in the here and now, Ryerson, one of the top members of the community. Thank you so much, obviously, for your generosity. But to me, it's more importantly just spreading the word of the Star and D'Amico show. It's over the top, Ryerson. It never goes unnoticed, and it's always appreciated. Feel like Martin St. Louis yesterday, not taking for granted the Marco, the fans, and how much, like, while we talk about fans, you know, fans and members of this community that we love, and we love the passion and everything else, brother, how great was that
Please
crowd last night from the get-go? From the get-go, go Habs go, ole, ole, the wave during the timeout. Jacob Fowler was in awe. Martin St. Louis said he got caught up in it, and it's nice to see. The Bell Center, we know, has a very high hockey IQ capacity. But on games like last night, and I get it, it was the Calgary Flames, not a world-beating team, but nevertheless, the Canadiens handled them when they've shown the tendency in the past to play down to the opposition. That was not the case last night. But Marco, like the third star of the game, to me, the fans were on top of the game early and made it an uncomfortable place to play. And you were in the building yesterday. I can't imagine how awesome it was to be there to watch a game like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still laughing at the group chat right now because everybody's talking
about
little. Yeah, I know, but they're all talking about little D'Amicos, and it's kind of off-putting. Can we start with one?
I love it.
What are you, my mother? Like, let's take it easy. No, I think the Canadiens. To me, I said it yesterday. The first star of the game was hands down the Montreal Canadiens fans.
Still not Alex Xhekaj. Okay, fair.
I mean, Jesus. I even the journalists from out of town were looking at each other going, what is this?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's crazy to say because, you know, Calgary's had, never mind. But it's just when you have to deal. I know I was about to go down a path where I thought I would laugh.
Yeah, I got you.
But I feel like when you look at the passion, the Montreal Canadiens fans have bought into the idea that there's something special going on.
Yeah.
I think that's the key that we're seeing right now. This is a believable core that is being built up in front of their very eyes that is in their eyes, and rightfully so, conducive to the belief that a championship is in their future. And that is a level of excitement and belief that I don't think the fan base has felt since the early 90s. And even I don't think anybody really expected it in 86 or 93. I think both of those were kind of surprises.
Yeah, fair.
You basically have to go to the late 70s where the expectation was that they would be competitive. For the first time in a long time, there's an expectation that this team is going to be competitive in a very, you know, immediate or close future. And that's ridiculously exciting considering all the band-aiding and you know, on the fly, you know, bricolage that we've been doing in Montreal over the last 30 years. So I give them absolute reign to do the waves, to be excited, to sing along to songs a minute after they've stopped playing on the Jumbotron. Like, they deserve that game. And to me, they were number one in terms of just being able to give that team energy and wowing not only Canadiens players, but everybody not affiliated with the Canadiens in that building.
You know, I just off that, right? As I often do, you know, we talk about players. We saw Nazem Kadri here with the Flames yesterday. Nazem Kadri for me against Montreal is whatever. He's okay. Didn't really stand out too much to me. But not that I'm saying the Canadiens are making a move for Nazem Kadri or they should or whatever. But if you're Nazem Kadri playing on that bum Flame squad, you're at the Bell Center, you're in a game like that, you're watching the Canadians outskate you, and then the fans are on top of you. It's like, it's interesting because I've spent so much time covering this team. The narrative long ago was that nobody wants to come here, the pressure, the pressure, the pressure. To me, it's like it's 180, bro. I think they flipped the script on its head in terms of what it's like to be here. Look at all the French guys that are playing well. Like, 15 years ago, you could never say that, right? Like, oh, you don't want to come here. There's too much pressure, blah, 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 blah. Look at Alex Carrier. Look how well he's played. Look at Alex Texier, how he's played. I mean, it's something, man. Like it was to me, it was always a bullshit narrative, to be harsh. It was a soft narrative, and when you win and you have a culture, it changes everything. Look, Phil Deneau. Look at Phil Deneau's point total. Since he's been here was it 3 points in 6 when he had 5 for half the season in LA? It's like he's happy to be home.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with culture, right? Like, I feel like if Phil Deneau were acquired in his current situation during the Bergevin era, it would have been eaten alive. Because every trade that Marc Bergevin made outside of the trade deadline was all seen as kind of like a savior move. Like he had to make that trade. And so whatever he went to get was scrutinized to the highest degree.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't feel the Canadians need to do that right now because they have a ridiculous amount of core players that are on the path to stardom or are already there in the form of Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield and Lane Hudson. So I think there's a difference in that. I think that there's also a difference in the management team and the coaching staff. Like it's not Bush League anymore in that sense.
Agreed.
Like it's professional.
Agreed. Yeah.
And professional in the sense from top to bottom. Like they're utilizing analytics on, in tandem with the eye test. They're not looking down on the science. They're more involved when it comes to the health of their players. They're more laissez-faire when it comes to the rapport between the players, former players, and the fans. I'd say there's a little bit more transparency when it comes to that. Now, obviously, when it comes to when it comes to injuries, we still have a little ways to go.
No kidding. Yeah.
But listening to their scouting staff, that's a big deal because we've seen the scouting staff go to bat for a few players on their draft videos. Remember going to bat on Lane Hudson, going to bat on Jacob Fowler.
Yeah, good point.
They listen to their scouting staff instead of overruling them like we've seen in the past for political or team need purposes. And I think that's a whole lot easier to do when you're rebuilding, granted. But again, it just speaks to a more healthy environment. And so with that said, it's easier to integrate when that culture is pre-built, grown, and then you just add elements that are just able to fit in quite nicely. Like we've seen with Dobson, Texier, Sammy Blais, and Phil Deneau.
There's Marco D'Amico. You can follow him on all your favorite socials at MN D'Amico. Read all his latest. He's got some more interviews coming up. I think Bryce Pickford is coming down the pipe not too long from now. And of course, we'll have all of that fully covered, not only in print at rg.org, but right here on this channel as well. Don't forget, let me just handle a couple of business items here as we appreciate your loyalty as always. You can come watch us do what we do on screen live at Public House at 1420 Peel Street. Our boy Stefan was there for our last show. It's always a pleasure to see member of the show Stefan in person. Always been a loyal supporter of the program. Nice to see him at Public House for our last show. We're going to be there Saturday on January 17th. That's a Saturday night. Come hang out with us. Great drink, great food, in a great atmosphere at Public House, 1420 Peel Street in downtown Montreal. Will be there to watch the game as well. And of course, all of our wonderful sponsors. We wouldn't be here without you. Cheapesttshirts.ca, Little Bear at littlebearonline.com, Cabletel, the best in home security. You can find out more information on their website. That's cabletel.com, or just email them and tell them we sent you there. info@cabletel.com. You're going to love their technology. You want to protect everything you've worked for, and the best in the business is Cabletel. And of course, our friends at the Great Morella's, 15 minutes from downtown Montreal. Hit up their website, morellasteakhouse.ca, to reserve your table tonight. It's a great spot for a boys' night out with a great cigar lounge, sports on the screens, or even perfect date night. It is such a beautiful restaurant. You have to see it to believe it. And trust me, I know beauty when I see it. Hello, Marco D'Amico. Morella Steakhouse, reserve your table today. Looking for prime cuts and great seafood, morellasteakhouse.ca. All right, brother. That is it. Business is handled.
I just wanted to thank everybody again for continuing to subscribe to the show and to follow us and to like everything that we put out. It does mean the world to us that you continue to do that. We continue on the path to 20,000, guys. We're more than halfway there, and it's thanks to you guys. So thank you very much for your continued support. And we have a whole lot more coming to you, even if some of us are going to be on an international timeline as of next week.
Ooh, teaser alert. Marco from Parts Unknown coming up. We'll be here, right? Because you guys are just great, and we love being here for you. So, and lots of fun on top of it, especially with a team playing and scoring the way they have. Fun to be here. And we'll be back tomorrow at noon time. Set your schedule, set that notification button. Thank you for all your kind words and your support. Again, we'll be back here tomorrow, hopefully to recap another Habs victory, their first 3-game home winning streak of the season, following a 4-1 win against Calgary. Can they run it up to 4? I think they can. They've been 6-0 against the Panthers going back to last year. So look forward to the game tonight, and we'll be here to cover it all tomorrow at noon time on a Friday. Let's have some fun together. On behalf of Marco D'Amico, I'm Sean Starr. Have a great day, everybody, and enjoy the game tonight. See you, Marco.
Take care, everybody.